Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the 3-game wildcard slate for Saturday, for the upcoming Saturday slate. There are 3 games on Saturday for starting the playoffs, and then there's 3 games on Sunday as well. We'll have a video up for both slates. Obviously, this video is covering the 3 games on Saturday. Most likely, I'll have a video up tomorrow breaking down the 3 games on Sunday. We got big prize pools for both slates. It seems like whenever the playoffs get here, the prize pools, still remain pretty high. There's still a ton of action, even though, it's only 3 games. I really do enjoy playing these playoff slates. So we'll break down this slate position by position like we always do, quarterback through tight end. Because there's only 3 games, it should be a relatively quick video. Should be able to break down everything relatively quickly. So before we get started, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you would hit the like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click the subscribe button as well. I do upload plenty of NFL content to this channel. I'll still have NFL videos up, pretty much until the Super Bowl. I'll be making NFL content. I'll still be making NBA videos daily as well. And I do have a lot of additional content over on Patreon. So if you want to check that out, the Patreon is linked down below in the description. You can check out all that I do have to offer over there. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at Saturday's wildcard slate. 3 games. We'll start off at quarterback. So at the top here, we got Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. I think these are our top 3 quarterbacks by far on the slate. You have Jared Goff, who's questionable, but I think Jared Goff most likely is going to play here. A lot of times when these guys are questionable, if this was like a meaningless regular season game, I think they would probably just sit out. But a lot of times these questionable guys are going to power through. Even if they are a little banged up, it's the postseason. They're going to try and do everything they can to be on the field. So I'm assuming Goff plays. I'm assuming Alex Smith plays. I think Goff, Rivers, and Smith are just so far behind the top 3 guys that I'm really going to be limiting my exposure at quarterback to these top 3 guys. Obviously, Josh Allen, I think, is the guy that projects the best. He gets a pretty good matchup at home against the Colts. Allen's just been so good this year. I mean, he's a guy that gives you rushing upside. Like, he's been one of the best QBs in fantasy this season. On a 3-game slate like this, he obviously is a guy you want to have in your lineups. It's just a matter of, you're going to have to sacrifice at other positions, whether that means paying down at receiver or paying down at running back. There's a lot of good options at the top at running back. You got Jonathan Taylor. You got a receiver. You got Stephon Diggs you could pay up for. I mean, we can't pay up for everyone, so quarterback is normally a position I think, I'm fine kind of paying down a little bit for guys with similar upside. Although Josh Allen's a great play this week, you can save, $600 and play Tom Brady. You can save almost $1,000 and play Russell Wilson. I think that's the way I'm probably going to be going on DK in a good amount of my lineups. I do like Russell Wilson the most on DK. I think it's $6,600. Like, his price has just come to a point where, he still has a ton of upside. I know towards the end of the regular season, like, things were not looking good for Russell Wilson. The Seahawks were playing a lot better defensively. They were kind of, switched. They were, at the beginning of the year, they were such a bad defensive team, and their offense was so good. They were putting up so many points offensively, but giving up so much defensively. Now it's kind of flip-flop. Now they're giving up, or they're not scoring many points offensively, but they're not giving up many points defensively either. So, it makes it risky, I guess. We haven't seen really a big game from Wilson yet, but in the playoffs, I expect him to play well. We know this is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think this is a spot where we can, buy low on Russell Wilson at $6,600 with his price, where it is. He's probably my favorite quarterback on DK this week. And then going over to Yahoo, the pricing is a bit different over there. If you look at the pricing on Yahoo, you got Allen coming in at $40, Russell Wilson at $33, and then Tom Brady is only $30. So I think Tom Brady at $30 does look like a pretty good option. I mean, Brady isn't someone that I've played much this year, but he's been pretty good for fantasy. This is a Bucs team that throws the ball a ton. If this game is close, Brady's going to throw the ball probably 35 to 40 times. They don't really run the ball much. We know Brady has a ton of good weapons. He's got plenty of good stacking options that you can do, whether you want to stack him with Godwin, Evans if he plays. You could stack him with Antonio Brown. Even you could double stack him. We've seen Brady have games where he throws 4 touchdowns and, some of his receivers will all score like over 20 fantasy points. Like, you can catch a ceiling game from Brady. He could easily go for, over 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. I do like him a lot on Yahoo at $30. I think all 3 of these quarterbacks, all 3 of them look really good. I think they all project pretty similarly. It's just a matter of, roster construction. You can't play all the expensive guys, so this might be a spot where you kind of have to drop down, maybe from Allen to Wilson or from Allen to Brady. So that's kind of where I'm looking to at quarterback. Goff, Rivers, Alex Smith, like, I think in tournaments, these guys are all going to be pretty low owned. I think you're going to see a lot of ownership at quarterback go to the top 3 guys. I guess if you force me to play anyone down here, assuming that Jared Goff plays, I think it's $6K. He's my favorite He's pretty cheap on Yahoo. He's $23. I think, as a pay down option, he does look pretty good. Right now, he's listed as out, but his status has not been confirmed yet. I'm recording this video on Friday. We don't know his status. He could play. He could not play. My best guess is that he's going to try and toughen it out and play here. And if Goff does play, against Seattle, although they've been playing really good defensively lately, this is still a spot where I think the Rams can maybe get down. Maybe they are forced to throw a little bit. And we know Goff has good stacking options as well. Like Tom Brady, you can stack Goff with Robert Woods. You can stack him with Cooper Kupp. You could double stack those guys. I do like Goff as a cheaper option. Really don't see myself playing much Phillip Rivers, though. Really don't see myself playing much Alex Smith. Definitely going to limit my exposure to the top 3 guys and then, a little bit of Jared Goff, assuming that he does play. But that's really it for quarterback. I think it's kind of a pretty straightforward position. Let's go ahead and move on to the running back position. Now, running back, I think there's one really clear play here, and then, the rest of the guys, I would say Jonathan Taylor's kind of a clear play as well. It's just a matter of if you can fit him in or not. But like Carson, Gibson, Ronald Jones, I think they all, look pretty decent. But Jonathan Taylor is clearly one of the top plays here at 7,900. He's just been playing so well. He's finally been getting the volume. We saw towards the end of the regular season, they were just giving him a ton of carries. 22 touches week 14, 20 touches week 15. He got 18 touches week 16. Last week against the Jaguars, he got 31 touches. Like, they're just giving Jonathan Taylor a ton of work. He's their goal line back right now. Against the Bills, a team that you can run on, I do like Jonathan Taylor a lot here. I think game script, I guess that's my one worry, is that maybe this could be a game where the Colts get down. But we still seeing that Jonathan Taylor can be involved in the passing game. Obviously, the Colts have a great pass-catching running back in Nyheim Hines, but I do like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's probably the guy I like to pay up for the most on the slate. Like, between Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, or Stephon Diggs, those top 3 stud options above 7K, I think Taylor is my favorite right now. So I like him a lot on both sides. 7,900 on DK. Looking at Yahoo's pricing, you got Jonathan Taylor coming in at $36 over there. He's kind of expensive, but the pricing is relatively soft, somewhat soft, to where you can pretty easily fit in Jonathan Taylor this week. So I like Taylor a lot at running back. I think he's clearly one of the best plays here. And then in the 5K range, you got Chris Carson, Antonio Gibson, Ronald Jones, Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is the guy that really stands out. He's just way too cheap in my opinion. Coming off a game last week where, he came back from injury, I thought there was maybe going to be some limitations on Akers, but he still got 25 touches. He got 21 carries, was not efficient at all for only 34 yards, but he also got 4 catches for 52 yards. This is a guy that just has a lot of upside. If they're going to be giving him this amount of work, he has clearly been the number 1 running back for the Rams recently when he's been healthy. Week 13, 22 touches. Week 14, 31 touches. Week 15 against the Jets, he got 16 touches. I think 16 to 20 touches is easily, in the range of outcomes for Cam Akers. He has the potential to get way more as well. We've seen the Rams kind of run a 3-headed monster at running back this year, a 3-headed committee with Akers being the number 1. Henderson will mix in, Brown will mix in. I think with it now being the playoffs, you might just see them just run Cam Akers into the ground. I think he's going to be their number 1 guy for the postseason. And if he's going to get around 20 touches, if not more, 5,100, that's just too cheap of a price tag for Cam Akers. He is clearly one of my favorite running backs on the slate, and I just think stands out as one of the top plays overall. Like him a lot on DK, and he's too cheap on Yahoo as well, $20. Even though he's the same price as Jones and Gibson, I'd still prefer, Cam Akers over those 2 guys. So really like Taylor and Akers at running back. I think Chris Carson's a good play as well. We did see Carlos Hyde be out last week, which was a boost for Carson, but Carlos Hyde is expected to play this week, which I guess is a little bit of a downgrade. But still, in the playoffs, I'm expecting a pretty heavy workload for Chris Carson. We know, this is a guy that can be efficient with his touches. He can get work in the passing game. If they get down to the goal line, I assume Chris Carson will be the guy punching it in. He's had a full week of practice to, get healthy. Injuries have kind of been something that's derailed Carson all season, but he doesn't have an injury designation heading into this game. He should be full go. At 5,900, if I were to get off of Taylor or if I were to get off of Cam Akers, Carson would be the next guy that I would look to. I think if you want to pay up at receiver for Stephon Diggs, then I could see dropping down from Taylor to Carson. But Antonio Gibson, tough matchup against the Bucks. We know the volume's going to be there. He's probably going to get around 20 touches as well, but I do prefer Akers for cheaper. I'd rather get up to, Carson as well. Ronald Jones, he's been, pretty efficient with his touches this season. He's definitely been way better than Leonard Fournette. You never know what you're going to get from Ronald Jones. I'm going to be pretty heavy on the Bucks passing game, so I don't expect to have a ton of exposure to Ronald Jones. But, in the scenario that Tom Brady fails, let's say Tom Brady only has 200 yards and a touchdown. That could mean that maybe their running game's just doing really well. That could mean that Ronald Jones is getting all the touchdowns. So if you want to get off of Tom Brady, I think the best way to leverage the field is to play Ronald Jones. Probably not something that I'm going to be doing in many lineups at all, but, he's going to be probably lower owned. I would assume out of all these 5K running backs, like Carson, Gibson, Jones, and Akers, I would assume that probably Jones will be the lowest owned. It'll be close between him and Gibson, but I would assume one of those two guys will be the lowest owned. Now, in terms of value, there's really no cheaper guys I like J.D. McKissic. If Washington gets down in this game and they're just kind of forced to throw, you could maybe see a game where J.D. McKissic gets 8-9 targets. He's just more of like a lower owned dart throw, I think. All these guys below 5K. Same with Nyheim Hines. In this game against the Bills where they're pretty big dogs, I think right now they're 6.5 point dogs. In a game where they're probably going to be trailing, you can maybe see Nyheim Hines get more usage in the passing game, get 6 to 8 targets. But still, I don't think he'd be someone that, I would be too heavily invested in. Really, my running back exposure, it's going to be a lot of Jonathan Taylor, a lot of Cam Akers, and then I'll mix in some Chris Carson as well. Those will be the three guys I will definitely have the most exposure to. But yeah, I think that's it for running back. Let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver now. So at the top of the wide receiver position, we got Stephon Diggs, 7,700. Clearly one of the top plays on the slate. Stephon Diggs, I don't have anything negative to say about him. He's been so good this year. When healthy, he's basically giving you, he scored double-digit DK points in every single game this season. We know he's going to get the volume. He's going to get probably 10 to 12 targets. I'm not really too worried about the matchup against the Colts. The Colts have a solid secondary, but you're not going to stop a guy like Stephon Diggs. He's basically matchup-proof at this point. He's been dealing with an injury, so I guess that's somewhat of a concern, but, in the playoffs here, I'm expecting Diggs to play come Saturday. He may be a little bit gimpy, but he'll probably be able to toughen it out. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think Diggs is a good pay-up option as well. Obviously, him, Taylor, Josh Allen, all those guys look like good pay-up options. It's just, you can't play all of them. You're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. So I think receiver is a position where we can get some guys, for cheaper, for maybe $1,000 cheaper that have a good amount of upside as well. Like the Tampa Bay receivers I really like. Chris Godwin, you got at 7K. Mike Evans, another guy that could maybe be a little gimpy coming into this game. His status, I think, is truly up in the air. I think there is a legit possibility that maybe Mike Evans does not play come Saturday, but that would just be something to monitor. But you got Evans at 6,500. You got Antonio Brown at 6,100. I'm pretty high on Tom Brady, so I like stacking up Brady with Godwin, with Evans, with Antonio Brown. I think Godwin and Brown are definitely my two favorites. Antonio Brown I probably like the most on DraftKings. He's only 6,100. He does stand out quite a bit. He's coming off a game where he got 14 targets against the Falcons, 11 catches, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is still a very, very talented receiver. This is still probably, I don't want to say he's one of the best receivers in the league because he's not at this point, but he is still a very talented receiver, still a guy that can, handle a heavy workload. If they need him to, play on a ton of snaps, if they need him to, get targets or whatever, if he has to soak up 10, 12 targets, he can handle that kind of volume. We know Brady, he does spread the ball around. You'll get probably 8 to 10 targets for Antonio Brown, probably the same amount for Chris Godwin. Maybe you'll see a few more targets for those guys if Mike Evans does not wind up playing, but I do like Antonio Brown quite a bit at 6,100. I think on Yahoo, it looks a little bit different over there. You got Godwin at $26, you got Evans at $25, and then you got Brown at $23. Assuming Evans plays, I think he's viable, but obviously there's a little bit of risk there because he could maybe not be 100%, which would make me, like Godwin more. I do prefer Godwin and Brown over Evans, so you got Godwin at 26, Brown at 23. I think Godwin at 26 does look really good on Yahoo. He's actually cheaper than DK Metcalf. He's $9 cheaper than Stephon Diggs. Kind of the reasons, like I said, I like paying up for Jonathan Taylor is because at receiver, I don't feel like I have to pay up for Diggs. You can kind of drop down to guys like Godwin, even Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods. There's just a ton of guys at receiver that I'm pretty confident in, whereas running back, I'm not that confident in Ronald Jones or Antonio Gibson. Really the only guys I'm confident in at running back are, Taylor, Carson, and Akers. So at receiver, I like dropping down. I like Chris Godwin at $26, stacking him up with Tom Brady. I think he does look like a very good receiver option on Yahoo this week. But on DraftKings, obviously you could play those Tampa Bay receivers. You got Lockett and Metcalf, 6,900, 6,700. Sure, DK Metcalf will probably see shadow coverage from Jalen Ramsey, and while Jalen Ramsey has done a pretty good job against Metcalf this year, I think he had one big game against them, if I'm not mistaken. They played, they played once this year. I thought they played twice. They have played twice this year. Metcalf, he hasn't been that good against Ramsey. Four targets, 2 catches, 28 yards, and then week 16, 8 targets, 6 catches, 59 yards. So Ramsey's done a pretty good job slowing down Metcalf, but still, I think DK Metcalf's the more talented receiver than Lockett. I think he has the more upside. I'd rather play DK Metcalf at 6,700, especially if, Lockett's going to get more ownership because people are worried about Ramsey shadowing Metcalf. I don't really let cornerback matchups scare me off of talented receivers like DK Metcalf. So I do like Metcalf at 6,700. I think he's right up there with Chris Godwin as like my favorite pay-up options at receiver. Now in this mid-range, Terry McLaurin, I do have interest in. He's another guy that's kind of been dealing with injuries all season, but he played last week in Week 17. I'm assuming he plays here in the playoffs. And when healthy, McLaurin's just been so good this year. Good matchup as well against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay secondary has kind of been struggling lately. They were pretty good to start the season. Their defense looked really good at the start, but lately they have been struggling. I do like McLaurin quite a bit. We know the target volume is going to be there. He's one of Alex Smith's go-to guys. At 6,300, especially like in tournaments, I think McLaurin is going to be pretty low owned this week, so I like him in that 6K range. I like both the Rams receivers a lot. I think if Jared Goff plays, I will for sure be looking at both of those guys. If Jared Goff winds up out, then yeah, I'll probably be backing off of the Rams receivers, but I'm assuming that Jared Goff plays, so I do have interest in both Woods and Kupp. Cooper Kupp does look pretty good on both sides. He is 6K on Draftkings, and if we look at Yahoo, you got Cooper Kupp coming in at $19 over there. I do like Kupp a lot on both sides. I think he's definitely a little bit underpriced. He is making his return from the COVID list. He did not play last week in Week 17, but I'm assuming there really isn't going to be any limitations here. I'm assuming he's going to be full go. And, we know what we're getting from Cooper Kupp on a weekly basis. He's going to get probably 8 to 10 targets. This is a game where maybe the Rams are forced to throw a little bit more than they normally would. Obviously, if Jared Goff does not wind up playing, I will probably be backing off of Cooper Kupp. But for now, I'm going to assume that Jared Goff plays, which does make me interested in both Kupp and Woods. And I think for the discount, I do prefer Cooper Kupp. He does feel a little bit underpriced this week at only 6K on DK. But, talking about cheaper receivers, like Cole Beasley's questionable. Even if he plays, I don't have too much interest in him. But T.Y. Hilton, you got at 5K. I think T.Y. Hilton looks like a fine option. Like he started off the season so bad, was just doing absolutely nothing, and then lately, pretty much since like week 12, he's been really good. He's been getting the targets. He's getting about 7 to 8 targets a game. He's been one of Phillip Rivers' top receivers. So in tournaments, lower owned option. I think Hilton does make some sense at 5K. I do like these Bills receivers though for value. I think John Brown at 4,700, and if Cole Beasley's out, Gabriel Davis at 4K could also be a value you consider. But John Brown at 4,700 I like quite a bit. When healthy this season, this is a guy that should be priced like in the 5K, 6K range. We know the target volume is going to be there. We know this is a very efficient Bills offense. They're going to move the ball down the field. I like John Brown a lot. I think 4,700 is too low of a price tag for the upside that this guy has. He's still shown a ton of upside this season when he's been healthy. Injuries have derailed him all year, but first game back from injury last week was pretty solid. 4 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets. At 4,700, I think is a cheaper pay down option receiver. John Brown does give us plenty of upside. I do like him at only 4,700. Gabriel Davis, I don't mind either, but I want Cole Beasley to be out before I go to Gabriel Davis, because if Beasley plays, Gabriel Davis will be like the 4th string receiver, and you just probably won't see enough targets to where I really want to consider him. But I really don't think there's a ton of punt options at receiver. Like Cam Sims, 3,900. Probably going to get like 5, 6, 7 targets. I mean, as just a cheaper option, he could be someone you maybe look to if you really need the value. Like Michael Pittman Jr. is really cheap, but he had that stretch where he was playing really well, and then just since then he hasn't really done much. The targets have kind of been down as well. Tough to go there, but if you need some value, I guess he's fine at 3,500. But really, I expect to kind of be living in this the 6K range. A lot of guys I like here: Godwin, Metcalf, McLaurin, Antonio Brown, Cooper Kupp, and then for a little bit cheaper, I like John Brown as well at 4,700. But I think that's really it for receiver. Let's go ahead and move on to tight end real quick. We'll cover the tight end position before we do end the video. So tight end is pretty gross on these. It's always pretty gross on these 3-game slates just because we don't have a ton of options. And I think on this slate, Logan Thomas is like the clear number 1 tight end. Gets a pretty good matchup against Tampa Bay. Thomas, he's been getting the targets this year. He's getting 6 to 8 targets a game. We've seen some games where he's got double-digit targets. He started off the season really bad, but since then he's kind of turned things on. He's been an every down tight end, been a guy that's just going to get a ton of volume. And this Washington team has 8-point home dogs. They should probably be playing from behind. They should be forced to throw. I do like Logan Thomas, especially just given the fact that tight end is such a thin position. He is clearly one of the top guys if you can spend all the way up for him. You got Gronk at 3,900, who I think is the next best option behind Thomas. Obviously, Gronk at this point is pretty much touchdown dependent. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going to give you probably less than 10 DK points, but we know he's a big body, in the red zone. They like to throw to him a lot in the red zone. He's always a threat to score a touchdown. Just given how thin the tight end position is, I could definitely see playing Gronk, just hoping he scores a touchdown. And if he does, if Gronk scores like 12 points, he could be the highest scoring tight end on this slate just because there's really no other options that are going to even get close to that besides, Logan Thomas. Like Tyler Higbee, I don't really like much at 3,400. Dawson Knox, I think, is fine at 3,200. You never know what you're going to get from Dawson Knox and these Buffalo tight ends. Like Buffalo, they don't really involve their tight ends much, but, Knox has been seeing at least more volume than he had at the beginning of the year. 8 targets the last 3 games, 7 targets week 14 against Pittsburgh. At 3,200 is just a punt play, given how thin the tight end position is. Knox is for sure viable, but I think a lot of my tight end exposure this week is just going to go to Logan Thomas and to Rob Gronkowski. Those are going to be the 2 guys I just try and key in on the most at tight end. So really, guys, I think that's it for tight end. I think we covered everything for this 3-game wildcard slate for Saturday. I hope you guys did enjoy this breakdown. Hopefully this video did help. If you enjoyed, just hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And I have been live streaming recently, so if you do that, you'll get a notification every time I do go live as well. Not sure if I'm going to go live for this Saturday slate, but I'll definitely be live for NBA. On Friday I'll be live. I might go live on Saturday for NBA. So been live streaming a lot recently. If you're able to tune in, I would highly recommend you do so. I'm just able to, answer any questions you have. We kind of just chill for, 30 minutes to an hour, answer questions, talk through the slate, just give you guys my updated thoughts. So check out the live streams if I do go live for this 3-game slate. Be sure to check it out. But best of luck on Saturday, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Good luck. Peace.